Hold on.
You're struggling
I'm
over
struggling. I can't open it.
there. Come on, you just pull the tab.
I can't. My fingers can't find any purchase.
Do you want some help?
You have a
Wait.
There it is.
Yeah, buddy. Got there in the end, you know.
In the end, it doesn't really matter.
I thought you were
Tried
gonna
so hard.
I thought you were gonna start singing "In the Arms of an Angel."
Nope. Oh, sorry.
You good?
Oh yeah.
This is definitely gold color.
Yes.
Yellow gold.
Welcome, dear viewers. Tonight we have a treat. Not specifically for you. It's more for us. This is Code Gold from Code Beer. It is a German-style Pilsner with a lightly sweet malt character, subtle floral hop aroma, and a crisp, clean finish. It is a 5.5% beer. In their own words, it is low malt and moderately low hops, so it shouldn't be very bitter. And they come in 4-packs of 16-ounce cans.
There we have it.
And it does have a clean gold color.
Yes.
Yes.
And this one was purchased for us.
Yes. Would you like to discuss that, Christian?
Yes.
Are we allowed?
I think so. So, Timber, my girlfriend, her father bought these for us to try on the podcast. And he said he liked the one that he had. And now we're going to decide if we like it.
Very cool.
So, thank you, Paul.
Our first sponsored episode. Thank you, Paul. Gentlemen, ready for our first taste?
Cheers.
Cheers. And Zach is not here.
Zach is not joining us, unfortunately. He's sick.
I cheated. That's not my first taste.
I saw
I
it.
was tasting already. So I don't know if there's a penalty involved. Or anything.
You
Yeah.
have to shotgun the rest.
Well, it's in a glass, so that might be kind of hard pouring it back in.
Yeah.
It's a feature, not a bug.
It's interesting, though. At first, it's not what I expected.
I kind of got hit with like citrus at the first,
Yeah.
like tongue touch.
Yeah. I feel like this is less citrusy than the Citra wheat, which would make sense.
Yeah, but this one isn't even like, it doesn't even say citrus on it.
Floral, I guess, would be.
I am getting the floral.
Where it's almost, yeah, just like if you had any of those hibiscus beers or anything. Like Zipline had one a while ago. I don't know if they still release it. But it had kind of that aftertaste to it as well.
I don't think I've tried that.
What was the one we had on here that tasted kind of like grass or like basil?
Oh,
It was just it tasted like a leaf.
I know what you're talking about. You thought it tasted like coriander, right? Like cilantro, soap, whatever.
Yeah.
Was that the Dogfish Head 60-minute IPA? I feel like it wasn't, but it was around that time.
Those are pretty strong.
I
Yeah,
think-
lots of bitter flavor.
Yeah. It was somewhere around then, I think.
Yeah, it was one that was like specifically advertised as like flavored with. Did it say coriander? Maybe something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think any of us were big fans of that one.
Yeah, that's really, you have to really like IPAs to get for most Dogfish Head, in my experience.
Yeah.
But they are good.
And yeah, I can't remember if that one was the Dogfish Head one specifically. I just remember we tried that one and I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Floral. And then it made
Yeah.
me think of that. Definitely malty aftertaste.
yes, I can definitely taste that.
But it's really subtle, any of the flavors it has.
And I'm pleased with the low amount of hops because I'm not a huge fan of bitter beers.
What do you guys think of like bitters? Like, you know, if you ordered like an old fashioned with like bitters in it.
I think that's good. But so you were talking about cilantro. Do you have like the aversion to cilantro where it's really bitter or you're the super taster?
It's like, if I think about it being like soapy, then it's like pretty soapy.
Yeah. Then
But
you-
like if it's like
yeah.
in rice or something, then it's like okay, you know, I don't really
Then you
because
don't
it's
notice it
like
as
kind of
much.
cooked with the rice, but
Yeah.
like fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, fresh for sure.
But that's like you have extra sensitive taste. Then I think is what that's a symptom of, at least, because I don't think cilantro is like that, but it ruins stuff for a lot of people. I think. Like, you know, are you guys a fan of chiladas at all? Like the Modelo chiladas? Have you had those?
I don't think
Have
I've had
not.
one.
I mean, you kind of have to. I didn't like the idea of it at first, like especially tomato juice in beer. But there's
Ooh.
the really good one. The one I like is the lime one. It's like chili and lime juice and cilantro in it, and that would be undrinkable, I would think, if it tasted soapy. So I feel
Yeah.
for people, but yeah, it's tough, and it's in so many random things, I guess,
Yeah.
that you wouldn't ever really notice it if you didn't taste that. Too bad.
Yeah.
Are there any other common like herbs or flavors in general that are reminiscent of other things?
Well, I think like the like fennel and anise, and they all have the like exact same flavor basically.
Yeah, like the
And
black licorice
licorice.
flavoring.
Yeah,
Isn't licorice just like a plant unto itself also, or like a
is it? I thought it was made
Is
from
it?
anise as well, but licorice. I don't know.
cause I think
It's
it
like licorice,
does have
licorice root or something. I don't know if
some,
that's
yeah.
but like licorice, the candy is like confectionery. It's just made
Yeah.
from like sugar and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I have no idea. I thought it was just a candy.
Oh, you're right, licorice plant.
I'm pretty sure it's some sort of like
Oh,
seed or like herb.
oh, maybe that is what it is. It's like the licorice plant.
What do we got, Carson?
According to Wikipedia, it's a plant
No.
named licorice. It's
How
an
could they do
herbaceous
this?
perennial legume native to Western Asia, North Africa, and Southern Europe. I don't think I really need to say anymore.
It's
So,
a plant.
I guess that is
confirmed.
the origin of it, though. Yeah, that is what they use to make licorice.
That's cool.
Are you guys fans of black licorice?
I love it. I'm like
You
the
love
only
it?
person I know
Oh, wow,
that loves
okay.
it, which is fine with me, 'cause nobody will eat it then.
Yeah.
Generally, I don't like it. I think the what are they called? Like the Good and Plenty. I think
Yeah,
they look like
yeah.
Tic Tacs. They're
Yeah.
like pink and white.
Right.
Those are all right, but I don't know if I was gonna have a choice of here's a thing of red licorice and black licorice. I'm gonna take the red.
Yeah, I
one.
get it.
Every time.
I think it's kind of an acquired taste. My dad always ate it when I was a kid, and I would just
Yeah.
force myself to eat it sometimes, and then eventually, it clicks.
Yeah.
I think my dad likes it too, but I was never
Yeah.
sadistic enough
Yeah.
to be like, I'm gonna like this one day.
So do you like Jaeger then?
Jaeger's good. It's a little too sweet. It's like too syrupy is the big problem with Jaeger, but yeah, it's a fine flavor. I don't mind like drinking, like a Jaeger bomb or something if that's the drink, but not my go-to choice, I guess. I don't really like overly sweet things either.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's
Yeah.
why black licorice is, because like another thing that I like that pretty much nobody else likes is grapefruit and grapefruit juice. Which fine, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna judge anybody for it, but I like the extra tart stuff. I don't know.
I've had a
Interesting.
grapefruit for a long time.
They're good. But like when
So-
I was a kid, you'd always just like you douse them with sugar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it kind of defeats the purpose of eating.
Have you seen those? I think they're like not candies, but like seeds or something that you eat them, and it like temporarily changes your taste buds to interpret sour things as sweet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You seen those? You
I've
tried
heard
them
of this.
before?
I don't know if I've tried them, but I know I've heard of
And
this.
people drink like a thing of lemon juice or
Yeah,
something.
and they're
and
like,
this is
wow.
delicious.
Right.
It's like
yeah.
lemonade or... Yeah, and I haven't tried it. I looked it up a while ago, and you can actually just like buy them on Amazon and stuff. But they are kind of expensive for what's basically a gimmick.
Yeah.
So I never actually tried it. So I was like,
Crazy.
not worth it.
Such a weird drug, to
Yeah.
take. Just gonna swap my flavor synapses or whatever it is.
Bioengineering. I wonder if they could make stuff like that to make like other foods. Like if you don't like mushrooms or something, and you eat one of those, and then you like mushrooms, or like they
Yeah.
taste different. Like a savory versus a something
Sweet.
else. Those already go good together though.
Oh,
So you
okay.
can say, like
I feel like stuff like that is so
Chicken and
specific to
waffles.
like a person's
Ooh.
interpretation. Like mushroom, I don't like mushrooms. I don't like onions. Like fine, whatever. But I don't know why exactly, because like a lot of food that just is cooked with that in it, and you wouldn't know if you didn't tell somebody I don't want mushrooms in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet you like develop your taste buds as you age, and they like get, because acquired tastes are a thing. So like you just acquire more tastes and you like more things. Like I never really liked coffee growing up, and I still don't really, honestly.
Well, it took me forever to like coffee, and now I love it. But
I didn't really like beer at the start of this, and
Right.
20 episodes later, I think I can comfortably say I like beer.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty solid. I'll drink a Voodoo Ranger every once in a while, or
yeah. Well, like starting off, when I first started drinking anything, like I was kind of convinced I didn't like beer at all. Just that, especially cheap beer, which is kind of the only thing I drink now, is cheap beer. And like I would mostly just drink liquor and like mixed drinks or something. And then
Yeah.
IPAs were what, like Dogfish Head actually specifically
Oh.
was the first thing that kind of convinced me, oh, there's more to beer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stuff to it. Even though I wouldn't say I'm a very big IPA fan now. Like it's all progressed a lot, but yeah, weird how things kind of take turns like that. I guess,
Yeah. And
development wise.
they have those like we've tried some interesting beers and stuff. Like we've got some leftovers. The Fluffaluffagus is like a marshmallow flavor one. The Calavera is that cacao, vanilla,
That
cinnamon
was
one.
so strange.
It wouldn't. I feel like I really liked it, but it's impossible to drink more than one. I feel like.
Like another stout.
Yeah.
Yeah, stouts are tricky.
Yeah,
and some of
it's
them
like-
are way too thick.
It's
to
rich and it's
stomach.
tasty, but
Yeah.
rich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
inky.
When I first started like drinking, I was drinking like because I didn't like beer when I started. I feel like most people, but I started with like Mike's because they're
Yeah.
super sweet and it's like yum. And then after a while, I was like, those kind of make me feel sick. Like that's too much. And then I started drinking Reds, like
Yeah, those are
the
like
ciders.
those are so like weak. I feel
Yeah,
too.
and I was getting into those. I was like, okay,
They
this
have
is
alcohol in
better than Mike's at least.
Sure, yeah.
And then it
One's
was
kind of like what's easy to drink back in those days too.
yeah,
What's not a hassle,
right,
Um,
yeah. And then it was like Mike's or not Mike's harder, Red's like harder, so it was like 8% instead.
now we're talking.
Yeah, but yeah, then eventually I started drinking like beers here and there until I love Miller High Life.
I was
Right.
just gonna say, like,
That's the
man,
one I
you
buy.
love Miller High Life.
That's the only one I buy too. I mean,
It's so
that's
good.
it's
I had
cheap,
it-
it's effective. It's good.
champagne of beer.
It is.
Exactly.
I
yes.
had it at a party one time. I was like, this is fantastic.
Yeah. Compared to any of the other ones, like I mean, sure, it's cheap and it tastes cheap. You drink too many of them, and you notice, but it's
Yeah.
not the same way that beers like I don't really know anybody our age that would go out of their way to buy this, but like get like old style or like even just at a bar or something, you get like an old style on special. Those are gross. Like they smell like kind of farty, like when you open the can. It just like they're fine. It's a beer. Like Old Milwaukee is the same way, where it's just like it's like ugh. There's something not very pleasant about it. It's not just neutral,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but even something like Budweiser is not as good as Miller High Life. Like regular Budweiser, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not the same. Not for me, at least.
You guys want to hear a beer fun fact that I learned recently?
Naturally.
Yes.
Okay, I learned about this at beer school, which, Christian, you need to come to beer school.
At
It's
Imperial.
on Monday
And
nights.
Carson, you also definitely got to come because you would really enjoy it.
How much is it?
It's free. So
Oh.
I'll invite you next time.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
remember.
If I'm available, yeah.
It's Monday
If I'm
nights.
open, if I'm feeling
First Monday of the
open to
month.
it, yeah.
2 free beers plus like 5 free 2-ounce samples.
That's
And then
pretty
we all
cool.
go to Lazlo's afterwards. 'Cause
Okay.
It's right there.
Okay,
and,
so
like,
it's
it
so it
supports
costs
Imperial.
$30 is what you're telling me. Yeah.
You can get like a $10 appetizer or something.
Yeah, I'll get the $10 onion rings, but I mean that is, those onion rings are no joke.
Okay.
They're big.
Yeah,
They
they're
are.
gigantic.
Okay, but
But no, it's just
En-
that it
enough
always
ado
I'm
about
always
this.
tempted to spend too much money anytime I go there because it is good. you
Yeah.
know, and yeah, just getting their stout. Have you had the Collapsar oatmeal stout?
ooh,
You should try that one.
I don't think I have.
'Cause it sounds like you've tried a lot of kind of overly sweet ones or really inky ones, which those all have their place. That's fine, but Collapsar's a really good balanced one. It's more I wouldn't equate it to Guinness, but it's more in that realm, where Guinness is kind of really subtle with its flavor, and,
Yeah.
and it's dark but not really thick or anything.
Guinness is really good.
Yeah, Guinness is great.
Well, I was gonna say just a fun fact, but maybe I'll give some quick info on beer school.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah. No,
ready
yeah. Sorry
for this?
sorry to interrupt. Please do.
So the most recent beer school here, they have a theme for every one that they host. So they've had an Oktoberfest theme in fall and stuff. They had a Christmas themed one for Christmas, and this most recent one was on the concept of mixing beers together. Which I was really excited for because after that last one where I mixed the cream soda with whatever the beer was, I thought that was cool. But this one was specifically on mixing 2 beers together. So they started off where they had you mix your little 2-ounce sample cups, and they had the Salty Lady from Martin House Brewing, the one based in Texas. They made that raspberry mochi we tried.
Okay.
And I don't remember exactly what the other one was, but it was a fruity, hazy IPA kind of thing. And so you mix them together and you get a bit of salty and a bit of sweet with it. And that one was pretty decent. Was okay with that. They had a quick palate cleanser after that with a standard, 2 ounce of a regular 5% kind of beer. Nothing too crazy. And then for the second sample, they had us mix their newer blueberry flavored beer. Have you heard about
Pitch
that?
Black or Pitch Blue? I mean,
Yeah.
that one's been around. That one's
It's
really
really
good.
dark.
I like that one a lot though. That because it's a very fruity, sweet one, but it's very dark too. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a cool one.
So-
you should try that if you haven't tried it.
So
Blueberry.
In season.
I wasn't a huge fan of it by itself. You do a quick taste test of each one and then you mix them. But they had us mix that blueberry one with their peanut butter porter.
Oh yeah, that
So
one's
both
really
of
good.
both of these are made by Imperial.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
PB&J. I've done that before.
Yeah, and so you mix it and it tastes like a PB&J,
Yeah.
like the sandwich.
That's
and,
crazy.
And it actually tastes like that too. It was pretty decent.
Their peanut butter porter is great. I love that one.
It is.
So that was the mixing, and then finally, the quick fun fact here is that they were talking a bit about history of beer and how it was served, and apparently back in 17 to 1800s ish, obviously breweries were not able to distribute nearly as far. They wouldn't make nearly as much beer either, so they would have a few varieties of beer that would be brewed in barrels, and it would only be for local pubs, basically, a very small region.
And however long it lasts, kind of thing.
Yeah, and so what they did was they would have these multiple makes of beer, where some are maybe older than others, and you could get them mixed together because it's basically the same type of beer, and none of them are going to be completely consistent like modern beer is. But what you could do is they would you would tell the bartender basically how many threads of beer you want, and so that's how many barrels they would pop the cork and mix into part of your glass. So they would mix different barrels of beer together.
Oh, okay.
The typical thing was apparently like having about 3 varieties of beer, and it
In
would be
one?
like newer, maybe new-ish, and like oldest.
Yeah.
And so if you say I want like 3 threads, they would mix all 3 of the beers together, and that would be your glass or pint or whatever of beer. And so that's how they came to that idea of mixing beers for the beer school event.
Because I was wondering that, like, I was trying to think of a situation where I've seen mixing beers like on a menu or of some place, but that makes a lot more sense that would be like the origins, or like closer to the origins. I mean, beer
Yeah.
had been around for a long time at that point too, but
Yeah, because they probably like didn't have like flavors, or like
Yeah.
a whole bunch of options.
yeah,
like,
or you
we
just
have beer.
experiment. Yeah, and maybe if you're really talented, you kind of can experiment and you know what to do.
Yeah.
Maybe to influence it a little bit. But yeah, how different could it
Yeah.
really be? And it's more like on the quality of the grain, I would think, and stuff.
Yeah.
Because nothing's all that consistent back then, and
Yeah.
but yeah, and just how like taverns too would be like the centers, they would be the ones brewing it too. And everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it all has to be in the locale, like that.
So you're not gonna get like a ton of variety back then,
Yeah.
but it can change the taste based on the age of the beer.
Well, and they still managed to come
And-
up with all these different styles, like
Yeah.
that are like really historical and really distinct.
Yeah,
and,
like the
regional.
German monks or something that have like the
Yeah.
single, double, triple.
Yeah, and Belgians have their own. Yeah, and like French have all their own styles and everything. Like, yeah, it's weird, but I guess that is more cultural. Yeah, but
Yeah,
no, it's
it probably
fascinating.
depends
though.
on like what ingredients you even have available for it.
Yeah, it's such a human like topic though.
Yeah. Oh, and they were joking. They're like, and if you're going to like a bigger pub, maybe in like a city or something, they might even have like 6 barrels. So if you want to be an asshole, you could be like, give me 6 threads, and then they'd have to like pop all 6 of them, pour out a sixth of a glass
damn
into.
Speaking, can I get another?
Oh,
I need
is
another
it
16
time?
threads.
Okay.
Yes, I will grab some more.
All right.
Christian's gonna grab another. I'm not gonna pause it because I'm afraid I'll fuck up the recording.
No, we'll make sure there's no dead air here.
Yeah,
we'll
we're
just
gonna
talk
keep the
continuously.
conversation flowing,
Yeah,
just like the beer.
The cat is sleeping on my jacket.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm gonna be so sneezy and itchy.
Gonna have to
thank you,
throw
sir.
that baby in the wash.
Yeah.
The jacket.
And
the cat.
And the cat.
Oh.
But I wonder, thinking back, because like when I went to Germany, I stayed like a week in Bavaria in high school, part with a host family, and then half of the other half of the time was with the rest of the American student group in Munich, and we stayed there, and that's where Hofbrauhaus, which if you've never tried any Hofbrauhaus, you can get that at Hy-Vee too. That's really good. Or
What is
Paulaner.
Hofbrau? Is it just like a brand?
It's a brand, yeah. It's a brewery and they have a gigantic, and there's a lot of history. Not to get too controversial, I guess,
Sure.
but this is where like Hitler back in the 20s had would have like his Nazi, early days of the Nazi party meetings where he'd give a 6-hour long speech or whatever, or 3 hours long,
Yeah.
whatever, and that's where like the beer hall putsch was planned. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was this exact brewery that's like right by the big like provincial capital building in Munich, in downtown Munich, and next to a couple of really famous churches and everything too. But it's a really cool building. They have really good beer. They've got gigantic, a 1.5 liter steins that they're known for that they'll serve you. And it's like a gigantic 3-story place that's got a stage with people dancing in like German garb and playing accordion and stuff.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
And, yeah, just a huge restaurant too, and very cool place. But I wonder, just thinking historically, because that's been around for a long time. I'm not exactly sure how long, but Germany's been brewing beer since like the 1600s, kind of to scale. And it takes time for a brewery to really build that up. But even like a huge one, how much could you really like reach out like from Munich if you were like the biggest brewery in Germany or something? It would still take months or weeks, to like get beer from like to all of the corners of the country or so. Or
Right.
yeah, you wouldn't do that though. I guess you just kind of make distribution level stops. I don't know.
Or like
Interesting
their
topic.
main city and maybe like a neighboring one, you know.
Yeah, how far could it realistically spread? Where it's really regional for a reason, you know. It's not just all German beer. It's like a Bavarian beer kind of thing. But I don't know. Weird, interesting things to think about. I don't mean to harp on too long about it. You know?
Yeah.
Talking about like brewing stuff, like that reminds me of an Adam Ragusa video. He might have done like 2 of them, but he went to like a college campus. I don't know what college. He went to a college, and they were like brewing beer as part of like someone's study or examples or experiment or whatever it was. They were brewing beer in the college. And so he got to go and like interview the guy who was like making the beer, and like he gave him like this like the spread of like, this is why we do this. This is why it's this temperature. We leave the hops in for this long and then take them out, and like this and that. And he talks about like scientific reasons why things are the way they are.
Yeah.
But then also like why like why hops, right? Like out of everything that you could have picked to like throw in there. But that was a really interesting one. I'll have to send it in the in the chat.
I would watch that. That sounds cool.
I think he did like 1 or 2 of them. But yeah, I'll send it to you guys because I was like, never really thought of like how it came around in the first place. Like it's just been here, right?
Yeah.
I feel like
It would be cool to brew beer together sometime and just like figure out how that process works.
Oh yeah, you can buy a home brewing kit. I'd love to try that. I've had friends do that, and sometimes it turns out really good.
I bet it smells bad.
Yeah. It just smells weird, like yeasty, you know, but not in like the bread way. But yeah. So that's where I got this hat actually. I went to the Templeton Rye Distillery, not beer, but the whiskey distillery in Templeton, Iowa. That's like in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. And that was interesting. It's not a very old one. It's a cool story that they've, like the founder of Templeton was a bootlegger that lived in this tiny town in Iowa during Prohibition, was bootlegging whiskey, and it got the attention of people in Chicago. There was a market for it as far as Chicago, and like the legend is Al Capone liked it a lot, and would pay special to get like shipments from Iowa. But like the whole town, was kind of in on it too. It's a cool story that the priest and the sheriff and everybody of import, the mayor of the town, were all in on this bootlegging operation, or like they knew it was happening and they helped facilitate it.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Because people like beer.
Yeah, and it was also their whiskey, in this case.
Whiskey,
especially people out in the middle of nowhere in Iowa, you have to
what are
have
you
something.
gonna do?
Yeah, you're gonna go crazy if you can't drink something. But yeah, and just how this.
Welcome to Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, and it's kind of because that's their livelihood too. It's like, well, we could either do the right thing according to the letter of the law, or we guard our livelihoods because our town will benefit if this is going on. Like it brings commerce to this like weird like kind of or ignored corner of the world, of the country. Like why wouldn't you do something like that? And then it turns out it catches on, but it's not as old as I thought. They just built the distillery in like 2017 or something. I only I guess I'm circling back. The only reason I brought this up, the smell inside, because they took us on a little tour, but was like overpowering. The smell of like yeast and rye fermenting in tanks, because they've got gigantic, like 100-foot tall tanks. Yeah, like fermenting the stuff, and there's a whole process to the whole thing and everything. But that was I can still kind of like remember the smell. That. Yeah, and brewing is just as complicated, I think, there's so many steps involved with brewing and distilling, not so much as like wine making. There's a lot to that too, but it's a little more straightforward in my elementary understanding of it.
Yeah, I used to go to this guy's house every so often. I worked with him at Da Vinci's. And he would brew his own beer, and he'd have big like stock pots like on his stove. And you'd walk past them and you'd be like, "Oof!" Like that's
Get your whiff of this.
and he'd always like pop. Every time I was there, he had a stock pot on, and he'd always lift up the lid, and he'd be like, "Yep, a couple more days." And I'm like, "What? You're gonna leave that there for like a couple days?"
Sounds expensive.
Yeah, like I don't know if the burner was on or if it was just sitting there, but I don't know. But it smelled really strong.
Ugh. That
Yeah.
make me nervous trying to do something like that.
Yeah,
You have to like slow roast it or something for days.
I don't know.
Put it in the crock pot.
He gave me like a big imagine what like hillbillies would give you moonshine in,
Yeah,
like a
the
glass glass jug with a
ceramic or
little
something.
like handle at the top and
Yeah.
like a cork.
Yeah.
He gave me one of those with the beer in
You
it.
got your own moonshine.
And-
XXX
yeah,
on the
yeah.
side of it.
And so I took it home. I was like, "Yeah, I'll drink this." I did not drink it. I didn't trust it,
Well, that's fair.
but it was probably fine. But still, like I don't know. He
That'd be cool
kind of
to-
made me feel weird.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, I'll pretend to drink this.
Yeah, you're kind of taking a risk with home brewed, home distilled stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta have a trustworthy source.
If you're getting beer from like a very local place, there's a decent chance that it's not pasteurized either. Because pasteurization involves bringing it up to like a very high temperature.
Yeah.
I want to say it's like 180 degrees Fahrenheit or something
So I think
to
Empyrean says
kill
that
off the
too.
bacteria.
But that's also, it's like that. It's okay if you do that with beer as long as but it limits the scope of like where you can distribute it, right? 'Cause,
Yeah,
like for wide
'cause it'll have like a
distribution,
lower
you have
shelf
to do
life.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like
'Cause I
all the
think Empyrean
ginormous.
is always saying like, yeah, no preservatives, no pasteurization, in a beer that they sell.
Yeah,
But that's
and I
okay
heard
if you're
this
getting
from
it
them,
kind of like
too.
right off the shelf, though. Too.
From the beer school.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. It's still safe, and I'm sure. But they sell it in Des Moines now. I think you can get Empyrean at Hy-Vee in Des Moines.
That's cool.
But I suppose it's not like that's you can get it there in 2-3 hours, and then it's good for another week on the shelf
you
or
just
something.
keep it refrigerated on the way there. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah, apparently you can non-pasteurized beers can keep for up to like 6 months when canned or bottled or whatever, preserved in that way. But pasteurized ones, like the big name brands you've heard of, your Michelob's and your Miller High Life and your Budweiser, those can last for like years or something.
Yeah.
Because they keep more stably.
And don't have to be
But
refrigerated either. Kind of
Yeah.
Thing,
And so the side effect though of with not pasteurizing it, you keep more of the bacteria and more of the flavor and terpenes or whatever it is. But pasteurizing kills a lot of that off or destroys it.
Makes
and
sense.
so you get less complex flavor because of that.
What I was gonna say, I guess I don't know. When you poured this one, I think it's only lightly filtered if it's not unfiltered. Where kind of like like Boulevard wheat. You guys had that?
I'm not.
Oh, that was a staple of my beer upbringing. I feel Boulevard's good in general. They have a lot of good stuff, but that where you just get an unfiltered beer, and I think like Aries Meritzen, you guys did that one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the Aries Marzen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meritzen is how
It is Meritzen?
Yeah, like with the umlaut A, you get the
Oh.
the short A.
I didn't even see that. Or I didn't remember it at least.
Yeah, because it's German. It's another
Meritzen.
interesting brewing point though, because Meritzen is a beer that you would serve at Oktoberfest traditionally, and you start brewing it in March, which is März in German.
Oh,
So it's like
that makes
yeah,
sense.
it's built into the name, and under the sign of the Ram of Aries is
Yeah.
is kind of the traditional. Another
So does that
traditional
translate
part.
to like marches beer or something then?
Yeah,
Märzen?
yeah, or Mars's beer right there. Or yeah, I guess I don't know exactly how you'd
Aries
literalize
is-
it. Or yeah, just like a March brew kind of thing. Yeah, like oh, it's a Märzen. Yeah, we started it in March. It's a winter beer kind of. Yeah, kind of
That's
more
interesting.
of that distinction, I think. But yeah,
Well, not to sidetrack this year, but bringing up German names for things. I've recently just finished that new anime Frieren, which has been coming out recently. And naturally, it is very good. It is currently like number one of all time on the My Anime List anime review site. But that aside, I thought it was funny because they also use like common German words, and they use that for a lot of like character names and locations and stuff.
really,
Yeah.
like a Japanese
So-
show. I'm not familiar with the show.
Yeah. It's like a high fantasy setting.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know any German actually, but from what I've heard, Frieren is similar or close to the word for like cold or freezing, and it's the main character's name, and that's her name because she has like a cold and distant personality at the start of the show.
Oh, okay.
There's a character Stark, which is maybe like strong or
Yeah.
something. Eisen is another warrior featured in the show, and that translates to iron, again for strong, basically. And then there's also, it applies to like the settings and locations too sometimes. Like there's a,
That's cool.
I think it's like Grosse Forest.
Yeah,
Which-
big forest.
Yeah. Yeah, like big forest.
I mean, yeah, like Germany. It's kind of weird thinking that Germany is the real setting of all of like the classic fairy tale, like knight in shining armor stuff. You know, I guess you could say England or France too, but Germany
Yeah.
is like kind of more known for that kind of culture. I
Yeah, you
think.
get like your, oh, what is the classic like folk author? Is it like Hans Andersen?
Oh, Hans. He wrote one of the books we read for book club, right?
What? What was the book?
Uh,
I was thinking I had a book growing up of like, I don't know, it was like 100 fairy tales for kids or something.
oh,
But it
the
was like
Brothers
Hans.
Grimm. You mean or
I might be thinking
The
of
Brothers
something
Grimm is
else.
definitely one of them. That
yeah,
might be the
cool.
other.
Well, like
But it might be
Hansel,
like-
that they wrote like Hansel and Gretel and stuff like that, and a
I
lot
have
of
to
the
look this up here.
famous fairy
I want to
tales.
say it's like Hans Christian Andersen or something.
That sounds familiar.
I know I've
Oh.
heard this name, but I can't place who it is.
Okay, I was wrong. So the name is correct, Hans Christian Andersen, but he is a Danish author actually.
Oh, you know, what's the
Hans.
difference?
But he did
Yeah.
write, poems, novels,
I
and
guess-
fairy tales, which he is most remembered
Okay,
for.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think
what's
that's what I was
some
thinking of.
what are some of his like really well known ones? Because I know I've heard this name all the time, but
Oh, let me see real quick here.
you've already had your phone in your hands. That's why I
What?
forced you to
He
reopen.
wrote his most famous fairy tales, according to Wikipedia, his most famous tales include The Emperor's New Clothes, The Little
I love that
Mermaid,
one.
Oh, okay.
The Nightingale, The Steadfast Tin Soldier, The Red Shoes, The Princess and the Pea, The Snow Queen, The Ugly Duckling, and some other ones.
Oh, okay.
Princess and the Pea.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that
yeah.
one's more well known than, at least to me, than some of the others.
Yeah, but
It's
that
more well-known to
yeah,
me.
the ugly duckling though. The ugly
I know of
duckling's
it.
a staple.
Ugly
you know?
Duckling,
But yeah,
yeah.
just like but yeah, very
I've heard of the
Brothers
Ugly
Grimm level. Just it's kind of weird how Brothers Grimm stories also maybe I don't know if he's as dark. You know, I've never read any Hans Christian Andersen, but Brothers Grimm adaptations of like Cinderella, I think might have been theirs.
Yeah.
And Hansel and Gretel for sure, where it's a lot darker in the original way that they wrote
Yeah.
it than how like it's
Then the
told to
Disney
children.
adaptation.
Yeah, and how the stories are remembered now.
I saw a Hansel and Gretel like movie that was like a thriller / horror, and I was like, wow, like this is not how I remembered this story, but it was really good.
Yeah.
I was like surprised at how good it was. Like it was kind of like it wasn't filmed like badly, but like when you look back on like movies or TV shows and you can tell they're like old or they were done like cheaply.
Yeah.
Right.
But that doesn't make them a bad movie necessarily.
Yeah, like the story can be good, but it's just like a lower production quality.
Yeah. So it was kind of like that.
Okay.
But it was still really good.
There was a good movie. I think it was just called The Brothers Grimm. That came out like, I don't know, 2008 or something like that. That was similar, or like an anthology kind of movie, but where they're kind of incorporating a lot of the Brothers Grimm stories in this weird, dark way, you know. But I can't remember much about it. I remember enjoying it.
I remember reading. So I was really big into Harry Potter when I was like growing up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to not have been.
Yeah, I think I read the books probably 3 times, like all the way through.
Okay.
And
Only 3 times.
Amateur hour.
Wait.
They're long books. That's a good start.
Yeah. I gotta pump those numbers up.
Rookie numbers.
Yeah. But they had in the story they referenced the Deathly Hallows a lot.
Right.
And then later, I think after all the books were released, they released another book that was just called The Deathly Hallows. And it was
Hallows.
Is it Hallows?
Yeah, definitely
it is,
Hallows.
yeah.
Oh, I was Hallows. The Deathly Hallows. Yeah, I guess I'm not that big of a fan.
I don't want your
times can't even say it.
I don't want your whole podcast audience, to like dump you.
Thank you. Thank you. But anyways, so they released that book, and it was just like the fairy tales of, like, in the Harry Potter
Of
world.
the Beetle and Bard. Yeah,
The Beetle
I
and the
think I have
Bard,
this book.
and
My mom got me that book.
obviously, the invisibility cloak and the
Yeah,
the
Elder
wand
Wand and the stone.
and the stone and like a bunch of others. And I really liked that one. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a cool addition to the universe.
Yeah, it made it feel more like, so this is what they were talking about, because they always
Yeah.
reference it or talk about it or whatever.
And get this chance to do some fairy tale level lore building for Harry Potter. That
Yeah.
not to turn it all to Harry Potter, but that was kind of a big, like, because I read the books since the 4th one came out. I was aware that they were like releasing, and the 7th one is just, I don't know, it just feels like everything kind of gets dumped on you right away or all at once. It's all introduced and then fits neatly into what was already written. Like, fine, it's a fine book,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to say I could write it better or some shit, but it's just, it doesn't feel as organic as some of the other ones did, as some of like the other reveals or something that you get in that series,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely remember the experience of reading them because I also really liked them when I got to them growing up as like a young teenager or whatever I was. But I don't think I had the mental capacity to say whether like they were actually good or not
Yeah.
at the
you're
time.
like,
Yeah.
this is cool.
When it's and it's only from subsequent readings that I thought that too. Like, it was fine
Yeah.
the first couple times I read it. I mean, I've read them a lot, definitely. I've read those books probably at least 10 times, like all the
Whoa.
way through over the years.
It's kind of fun to just like come back and revisit stuff too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because like I feel like
they're easy to read.
it's
back
really
to them
easy
now.
to just like always look for the next thing to jump on, the next bandwagon to follow, and
Yeah,
go along with the hype of some new show or book or whatever is going on. But like sticking with some of the old stuff and just like revisiting some of your favorites to like remind yourself why you like them, it's a good time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like books, you can always find something new. Like those
Right.
ones, the Harry Potter books are so long already. You're always going to find another like little detail
Yeah,
that you're not
right.
conscious of remembering. At least.
That's actually why I recommended one of the books in our book club thing.
Oh, which one?
The Prince, because I have read that one already, but it's definitely
That's it.
how I remember it. It's definitely a read a little bit and then think about it.
Yeah,
Right.
It-
It's
like it's
a
not you
philosophy
can't like
thing.
binge it,
Yeah.
But I did read it, and I remember thinking like that was pretty crazy, like some of
Yeah.
the things, but.
Like when I saw you recommended that book, I remembered that I had read that in college for like I think a politics class. It
Yeah.
was probably like Poli Sci 108 or something. at UNL. But yeah, I was looking back over that, and I checked through some of my old files, and I was like, oh, I've actually got
There
like
it
a
is.
paper on this book that I wrote.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
'Cause, yeah, I definitely read some, at least excerpts of The Prince in high school, and like that, and like Civil Disobedience by Lenin. I remember, I still like remember or think about that every once in a while, kind of thing too. Where,
Yeah.
where they're just really, I guess as far as philosophy goes, they're not all that dense, but there's a lot
Right.
covered on them. Because like The Prince isn't that long,
No.
right? Like 100 pages or something. or-
It's pretty
it's
short.
not long, but it's very dense. It's like high level reading. You have, like you said, you have to read a little bit and digest it and
Right.
think about it. And some of the, I remembered one thing in particular. Some of the phrasing and like the way he words stuff is a little confusing. Because I remember he had, I don't remember what it was, but in particular there was one sentence that I literally sat rereading for at least half an hour so I could talk about it in my paper. Because I was just like, part of it was just semantic confusion, like what is he trying to say here, and part of it was digesting it, like what are the ramifications of what he is saying.
Read between the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
kind of looking forward to rereading that again, and I'll probably like reference my notes and stuff and see what I had written there.
Yeah. How are you guys doing with the reading for this month?
I haven't started yet, but if it's only a couple hundred pages, I'm sure that I'll have time.
I'm done with it.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's a very easy read.
Yeah.
And the chapters are so short.
I spent like 20 minutes, and I think I got like a quarter of the way through, like our first,
Yeah.
meeting.
I've been lazy about reading lately.
Yeah. I finished this afternoon, so
Nice. I forgot you're in the book club though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
forgot about that.
No, I am.
I almost mentioned a minute ago. I was like, you should join.
Yeah, and I don't think it should be a problem. I'll just need to like remember, I guess, to do
Yeah.
it. But yeah, if we're doing modestly length books, that's a problem.
And we try to send like notifications and stuff, like, hey, we got like a week till our meeting date, and
Yeah,
maybe have Discord installed and stuff if you're gonna meet that way, or we can do like a Snapchat call.
yeah.
it's going to
Just
be
prepare
trickier.
for it.
Yeah, the harder part is going to be like finding books to suggest that are short enough, because I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of very long books.
There was one
Yeah.
book I wanted to suggest that I have on my bookshelf that I haven't read yet.
Ooh.
And I grabbed it and I was checking the page count and I flipped open like 3/4 of the way, 600, and I was like,
And, like in my mind, it's like that's reasonable, but like that's not like I'm not going to be able to just do that in 2 weeks. That's like a
Yeah.
take my time kind of read, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through the second Gunslinger book.
Oh,
Or
Caleb
the Dark
mentioned.
Tower book.
I need to go back
Yeah.
to those. I read the first two, but I think I never read the third.
Yeah.
And how is it?
Really good.
Yeah,
A whole
they're great.
different like setting than the first one, because the first
Yeah.
one's like all like desert.
What's the second one called again?
Drawing of the Three.
yeah.
And it's split up into like 3 sections with
That
like
one's good.
5 chapters each, and then like they call it like it's titled reshuffle, like between each like drawing. And something crazy just happened in the last chapter I read. And I don't know, I haven't read anymore. I read that and I was like, oh,
There's some great scenes. Yeah.
closed
It's
it.
like, whoa.
Gotta think about this for a bit.
Yeah. And then I did all the reading for the book club, and I was like, okay, now I can go back and
Yeah.
see what happens here.
I found the second one a lot more compelling than the first book. They're both really good. The theme is really cool in all of them, but the second one, has a lot more like concrete things that happen, I guess.
Yeah, there's crazy
It's not
stuff
quite as
going.
vague.
Like the first one was crazy, like in of itself.
Yeah, true. But it's a
and
little bit more disjointed of
yeah,
a story.
Yeah. And the second one, it's got like, I mean, it seems like the theme or like what it's basing off of is tarot cards.
Yeah,
Somewhat.
right.
But then it actually like goes into like I think the first one was the prisoner.
Yeah.
And then it's the lady,
I can't remember.
it's
Yeah.
something with the lady.
The Lady
Did
of
they do that?
Swords.
Yeah.
Did they do that in the Gunslinger too? With the
Uh,
tarot cards?
Yeah, this is the second book I'm talking about, the Gunslinger.
Yeah, they might have
And
had
they
like a
mentioned-
brief mention of it in the first one.
like some towards the end, I think.
But it's more of a
book.
thematic like framing thing, right? In the second book, it's not something that the character's literally thinking about, right?
Right, it's more thematic. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I kind of remember that too.
But yeah, kind of in the setup of fate, I guess, kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the
Or-
first
yeah.
book was like all desert basically, and then they get to like the mountain and climb the mountain at the end. And now second book, they're on the other side of the mountain. He caught the man in black in the first book.
Oh, yeah.
He
Yeah,
caught
I
up
remember
with him.
that.
But now he's on the seaside.
And
He's on the
now,
shore.
now it's a like seascape and like rocks, and it kind of makes me think of like Maine or like Oregon
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
Mhm.
Is kind of the picture that I'm have in my mind for the scene.
Oh yeah, well I mean Stephen King, yeah, that would be what he has in his mind because he's from Maine.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh.
So
that's where most of his books are set. Or yeah, like Derry,
Oh.
Maine is where it's set.
that's cool.
Yeah,
And
he's from
there's,
Bangor
like-
or something.
There's like these lobster like monsters.
The Lobstrosities.
The lobstrosities. And they seem to be like, at first they were like a pretty big problem, like immediately, and now they're just kind of like a background problem, but he keeps mentioning them every now and then. He's like, looks over his shoulder and checks, and
It's basically
the lobstrosities
Factorio,
have moved
the book.
closer or something.
You know, it's a Factorio situation.
She's trying to
you
get
know?
to space.
I mean, they haven't made that clear yet, but yeah, I suppose kind of, you know, in a way.
But yeah, second book, so good so far. I usually have like, when I get into like my reading phases, I would say I usually have like 2 books going
Yeah.
to go back and forth between. But I definitely, since you haven't read it, I mean I haven't read it until now. I'd recommend it.
You're currently reading it.
Yeah, I'm currently
in fact.
reading it.
Little change of reading topic, but did you ever finish House of Leaves? Because I've totally dropped off. I wish I only had 2 books on my reading list. I'm so bad about finishing
I
books
was
like in
getting-
a timely way.
I got to a certain point pretty early on, and then stopped reading for a while. And then I came back to it, and I was like, I can't believe I stopped. Because, like, the
Same.
very next
Yes.
chapter, I was like, shoo.
Same. Yeah.
And then I read for a little while longer, and I was like, my dad is going to love this book. And I got it from my dad, and he started reading it. And he caught up to where I was, and I was like, okay, I better start reading again.
Yeah, got to be able to
And
talk to him
then-
about it.
And then I never started reading it again because I
Oh.
started on other books.
Where, keeping it vague, where in the book are you?
Pretty early still.
Yeah.
And did your dad finish it too?
My dad finished it. He
Nice.
finished it in like a week.
Damn.
Yeah.
That was like the friend who gave me the book was how he did it too, though.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
I'm-
it's just too much, I feel. And I don't have enough free time.
Yeah,
to
it's
sit there
it's a
reading it.
lot to, because of all the
It's so good.
footnotes and trying to remember like who's talking.
I want to
and-
digest everything that I can, and,
Yeah.
and it's just it's an exhausting book to read.
Yeah.
That's constantly
really-
making you like think about what like am I reading a footnote within a footnote within a footnote or not? You know, kind
Yeah.
of thing right now.
Is this the original old man talking, or is this the tattoo guy who's in love with a hooker?
Yeah, I don't really know anything about the book, but I've heard you and I think Seth was
mentioned it,
also reading it at
Yeah.
one point, like
Yeah.
talk
Crazy.
about it.
It's such a weird
And-
book. It's the weirdest book I've ever read for
And
sure.
the only thing I know about it is I happened to see a meme like within the last week or so.
Yeah.
And
Right, yeah. Why is the house so 1/12 of an
Yes.
inch bigger on the inside? I saw
it's
that
like,
too.
oh, this
that made me
the
happy
house
to
is
see
like
that.
bigger on the inside. Why is it bigger on the inside? Why is it bigger on the inside?
Yeah, like
and just like in
darkened-
more
yeah.
increasingly serious
Yeah.
tones.
So
Why
they
is the
had-
house bigger on the inside?
They had the initial like hallway appear, right? Like kind of the
Yeah.
first thing, and he brought over guys to like measure the roof, measure the inside, and they're
Yeah.
like, where's the quarter of the inch coming from or whatever. And then the other one appeared with like the door, and he went inside and explored for a bit and got into like the great hall or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like, boop, I'm out, and heard like the growling or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, see ya. Made his way out. I think he got lost initially, and he heard like his daughter calling for him or something.
Yeah, he manages to get back
Manages
somehow.
to get back, and then he called in another team or like a group of people.
His buddies, yeah.
Yeah, and they went in with like a string or something, and they went down some like big spiral staircase in there and found even like crazier, like deeper, like it just keeps getting bigger.
Yeah.
And then they eventually came back. And that's like the main
part
of where I'm at.
Because it gets crazier.
I'm sure I've got like probably 700 pages left.
Yeah, I'm not that much further than where you are, but maybe like 100 pages further or something. I can't remember.
This like minorly reminds me of one of the books I suggested for the book club, which is Pure Nessie by like Susanna Clark or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I read like a little bit of the synopsis, of course, because I wanted to make sure it was something I'm interested in, but I don't really know the plot. I just know it's something to do with a person who lives in like some dimension that is basically just a house, and it expands out in rooms for like miles. And so the entire book is apparently this person just like exploring and making a map of this house and, interacting maybe slightly with some sort of observer figure who is watching them as they go through this kind of exercise, I guess.
This sounds good.
Yeah. And so I'm definitely interested in reading it because I remember like one line that someone quoted in their review was along the lines of like, I went like 600 rooms west and I went, 700 east and a few hundred rooms north and south and also vertically in each direction. And there is like, there's deteriorating structures and rooms expanding in size and contrasting. And I don't know. It sounded really interesting.
Oh, this sounds great.
And I really don't know what to expect from the novel other than that's like the basis of where it starts. It's just like this exploration-y kind of theme.
And it's not that long too, right?
No, I mean, it's 4 book clubs, so it should fit in.
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Oh, that's cool.
Which, that's kind of a flawed metric in like measuring books by their length.
Well, I think
in terms of pages.
I'm more asked that. Yeah, like not that it's in pages, but more that it sounds like a complex book and it's interesting that it's not that long.
Yeah,
they like just to. I'm interested to see how the style would go compared to a book like House of Leaves that goes out of its way to give you more detail like than exists. Like to give you.
Right.
And but I mean, very different styles though. All the same, they both work.
Right.
Yeah, and kind of that. I was more specifically talking like. It would be more convenient if we could measure books in terms of word count so that we could recommend them more accurately for book club.
Yeah.
Not that it's like a huge deal if one book is significantly longer than another, as long as we can still get through it.
But pages don't account for spacing and stuff.
Yeah, font size, spacing, kerning, line height, all of that kind of.
Right.
It would be a lot easier if we could just be like, okay, this is 100,000 words. That's the cutoff for book club,
100,000.
Yeah. If only that was a good standard. I guess.
Yeah, right.
I wonder how many.
Bathroom. Right?
Yeah. I was literally
I'm
to the
going
left
after
of the
you.
door.
I was just thinking that. Yeah, first door on the left. But yeah, I was wondering like how long House of Leaves would be if it wasn't. I mean, it's spaced the way it is for a reason, because you get to like the midpoint of the book and the later things of the book, and there's like one like diagonal paragraph on a page or a single word on a page, or a blank page.
And isn't there pages that are like partially cut out?
Oh yeah, and there's like redacted like stuff like in the book, like it has it like listed, and there's like redacted like blacked out or like X'd out, and then it continues on with the paragraph. And you're like, what is that? Like you flip through it and you're like, this already looks crazy. Because it's just like some of the pages are upside down.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? I don't know yet.
Have you come across any that are, well, for example, upside down, where like it makes sense in context of the book that you would need to turn it upside down to read it?
Not yet, because I'm still in the like first stages of the book. And so I think right now it's more of the like, I'm past like the introductory things. Like I'm into the world. Like I've met probably all of the main characters. I mean, there's like one guy who is like Well, I take that back. There's like 3 main guys, and there's lots of footnotes. And anyways, I think I'm past like the main like introductory stuff.
Okay.
And so now I'm into like things are heating up. And then I think after that like heating up point, then it starts to get like weird like that. But on that note, I'm going to the bathroom also.
Oh shit, I've got a bit left in this one still.
Yeah, I guess
You guys are like killing me. I've got like half a glass still.
I have a problem.
Well, I've got like a third of a glass at most. Or I guess it would be a quarter.
Is it fine if I have this one?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that'll be $1.25.
I only have $1 cash.
No.
And sorry, I have no other way of getting money.
Oh man, you'll live to regret this.
Yeah, that 25 cents plus interest, that's gonna kill me.
Oh my god, give it 70 years, you're done for, Bucko.
Modern interest rates, I mean, yeah. I would assume double the bank rate, so 25 cents at 11% interest or whatever, you know?
Oh yeah, how do you do that compound math in your head?
Yeah.
25 cents plus 11%. That's like an extra 3 to 4 cents a year to start with.
Mm-hmm. And
Give
if
it
I
200
ignore it,
years.
yeah. If I forget about it, that's bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Christian was just continuing about the House of Leaves, saying there's like 3 or 4 characters or something, and he's kind of through
There's
like
a
the
lot.
introductory.
Yeah, there's quite a few major characters. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything for him, so I won't go any further. But like
Sure.
a lot of fucking weird stuff has happened, and I can't even remember exactly what point I'm at, or I can't even begin to imagine how the book is going to keep going, or how it's
Yeah.
going to eventually conclude. Because I'm like halfway through it at best, you know.
Okay. Kind of unrelated-ish, but I do have a question for you, and I'll restate it when Krishna comes back.
Mm-hmm.
But have you had any scenarios where you've like read a book or well, Christian's back here now, so I'll let him sit down and we'll start this here. But
So after this, I have 2 notes that I thought of in the bathroom.
oh, okay. Well,
But-
I was about to kind of change topics
Yeah,
here,
if
so
they're
if it's
house-
still
Okay,
related,
my
go ahead.
bathroom topics were completely off topic, so
Okay.
we can continue with what you guys were talking about.
My thing is vaguely book related here. I was gonna say, have you guys like read books or generically consumed any piece of media where it like sticks with you for a while and you kind of notice more references to it just out in the wild that you were previously unaware of? Like, I think a really easy example would be JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, just because it's referenced by everything. And you see stuff and you're like, oh, that's a JoJo's reference.
Well, you shouldn't have given me this opportunity.
but-
Dune
Dune?
is like that. Yeah, the books.
Oh.
Like, because I read the books. I saw the David Lynch movie maybe 2-3 years ago. My friend, I mentioned it to my friend. He had the first book, so I read that, and then I've since finished all of Frank Herbert's books. There's 6 original books.
Okay.
His son wrote a bunch of other books.
I
haven't
heard.
read. Yeah,
My
I haven't
friend
read any
Kyle
of those
has.
yet.
I read a number of those. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but like I don't think he's quite a, like, dare I say, Frank Herbert, the original author, he's almost like akin to Tolkien as far as
Wow.
how talented he is
Okay.
at like world building and writing.
Really?
Or just
Definitely
at the
worth a
story.
read then.
Yeah, or at least maybe not a 1-to-1 comparison with Tolkien, but like the story that he created, the legacy of Dune, I think rivals the legacy of Lord of the Rings, because Dune is actually, not an exaggeration. It's like the foundation of all modern science fiction.
Interesting.
Dune came out in 1965.
So what kind of references have you seen to that recently then?
Well, there's a
that
bunch of
stuck in your
random.
mind?
Yeah, I guess there's a lot. Like just random little ones that like I remember from childhood. Like one of my favorite one that I've learned just in the last couple years is a Dune reference. There's an episode of The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Okay.
One of my favorite childhood shows. Still a great show.
That's funny.
That I can't remember the full premise of it, but it's a pretty freeform show. They wake up, like the episode takes place in the future. Mandy is the emperor of the entire known universe. Her power comes from cinnamon mines, so like spice mines. She's also a gigantic worm. She's which is a reference to Dune, like a later book in Dune, where one of the main characters turns himself into a sandworm.
Oh my God.
And is the emperor. And
Is it Paul Atreides?
no, it's his son. Yeah.
Oh.
His son turns himself.
Did you
sorry
see
if
them?
this spoils Dune for you, but I think it'll just add to your.
That's
need to
crazy.
see the rest of it.
Did you see the movies, Christian?
I saw the first movie in theaters when it came out.
I still need to see
And-
part 2.
Oh,
We are rewatching the first one right now.
I love the new one is so good.
I
really
watched-
need to see the new part 2.
I got Caleb, Seth, and my friend Levi together, and we watched part 1, and then 2 days later we saw part 2 in theaters.
Was it pretty good?
It was really good. I would definitely recommend rewatching part 1 prior because have you guys both seen part 1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it ends with that scene, or close to that scene where they have that kind of duel with the Fremen man.
Yeah.
And that is like immediately referenced at the start of the second movie. And if you had like a 3-year gap between watching the movies, you'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and if you're not too
or at least I would have.
Because that's one thing I think this new movie
So I was glad.
does an amazing job introducing Dune to an audience of people who are not familiar with it.
Yeah.
And David Lynch did an okay job too. That movie's funny. I think you should watch that movie too. I think it's still on HBO. It's just funny, but there's some cool parts to it too. But it's 30 years or 40 years old now.
Yeah.
And but it definitely is a really complicated. Like you can think of it as being a Game of Thrones level style. Like how broad the intrigue and deceit among characters is and stuff, and very house-based feudal style.
I've definitely got that vibe
too.
since I'm rewatching. Like I've rewatched half of the first one, and I still need to finish the other half. But yeah, I definitely have had that same thought, like Game of Thrones style, like very, like as you said, like house-based, and like there's a lot of like scheming and like people with other personal plans, but they're
very
like
grand
double
political
agent
plans.
sort of things, and that's part of the Game of Thrones did such a good job with like that aspect of the show. It was almost like a drama,
and it's weird that something so like steeped in sci-fi like Dune could have so many similarities to it,
right?
And just the way that it's written, it all comes down to, I think, original writing, that it was just written in a way that's not cliched. I mean, it wasn't cliched back then either, I guess, but yeah, it's a very interesting series. That might be like I would put it up there with Lord of the Rings as far as how influential it is. And funny little tidbit too, because this is always something I think of because especially in the nature of what Dune talks about, the nature of power and like how power can easily corrupt people and stuff, to put it broadly, that Dune, so Frank Herbert, he was a contemporary of one of the other most prolific writers, science fiction writers to ever live, L. Ron Hubbard. Who the founder of Scientology. And I don't know exactly what year they were born, but they were born at similar times, or they both made a career as science fiction writers at similar times, or writers in general. They both became incredibly, like, highly, widely published, successful authors, and then they both died within like 2 months of each other in 1986.
A lot of parallels.
Yeah. So
was it an inside job?
Who knows? But it's almost like Frank Herbert was this version of L. Ron Hubbard that I'm convinced Frank Herbert could have made a way more successful more, universe encompassing religion, like he describes in his books, the way that like Paul and his line kind of set the order of things, in once they take, sorry, spoiler, they take power,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you got that when I told you that his son becomes the emperor of the universe, kind of thing. But yeah,
That was pretty crazy.
yeah, but the similar ways that like Frank Herbert could have made this very successful cult, around him, around his prowess of writing and creativity, but he didn't. And he used his powers for good instead of evil, and maybe it took a few decades for culture to really appreciate him,
Yeah. So, on the topic of Dune, since you've read and seen the movie, how far does the movie cover the book, and like how like accurate is it?
I'd say they did a great job keeping it accurate. I think the only thing would be like they didn't really change anything. There's nothing really glaring, at least that I can think of. It's been a few months since I've seen the movie, but if anything, it just omits some minor things. Like there's a little bit more character development for some of the minor characters, like Gurney Halleck and the Mentat. That gets like no airtime in the first movie.
Yeah,
like, they're all more
like the guys with like the black on their lips.
Yeah, that like are just really smart, and because they're like computers are banned, so they train themselves to be calculators. Yeah, that they can just do like crazy calculations based on mental training. Since you can't have.
Are those the guys that like, pilot the interstellar?
No, they're different than the navigators. Those are the guild navigators. Those are the people that like essentially succumb to spice addiction to the point that it transforms them into like another being in order to have the awareness necessary to fold space, quote unquote, and do interstellar travel. But mentats are what the black tattoo lip guys are, and they're just out of necessity because there was a gigantic crusade thousands of years before the events of Dune to wipe out any thinking machine. So anything that uses AI, they still have like, robots and stuff, but none of them compute things. They're just like, oh, it's a floating lamp that follows me around or something.
Yeah.
And because they don't trust AI, so they've supplanted the need for that by training humans really intensely to be able to do incredible like mathematical and logical calculation in their heads and devote all their mental energy to it. So yeah, because that's like the first scene where he can just instantly roll his eyes back and calculate how much the trip costs and stuff. He's just that smart,
He's him.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
but it's limited.
He's that guy.
Yeah.
Whoever you think you are, I am.
But yeah, I'm going on too long. But yes, it's very accurate, very true to the book. If anything, it doesn't. It's just leaving out things because they don't want to make a 5-hour-long movie.
Yeah.
I guess, which is fine.
I was watching it, and I was thinking to myself, I almost wish it was even longer.
Yeah, right?
Because just giving it the opportunity to cover more details and answer some more unexplained questions.
You should read the book because the book it's very philosophical. I think you'd really like it. That it might take you a little time. Kind of. It's a 650-page book, the first one. But.
Can I mention one thing? No spoilers about the second movie then that I really liked.
Ahead. No, you're not spoiling nothing for me. So
okay, just me.
So there is a scene in there, featuring one of the Harkonnen peoples,
Bautista or one of the others.
I don't remember his name.
Bautista plays Raban, or you've got Skarsgård plays.
It's not the really fat guy who floats.
Yeah, that's
it's the other guy.
Yeah, Raban,
like
is his son.
The nephew or the son or something.
You mean Austin Butler? Fade Rautha?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see those scenes. Those are going to be great.
So there's one scene featuring him that is filmed, I think it was in infrared, and it was so cool because the entire movie is in color, and it switches to that, which is like completely in grayscale, just to like give emphasis to what is going on the screen.
Well,
And you get like this kind of Schindler's List moment where you see a singular figure like in color towards the end of the scene, and then it like fades back into color or something.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it was really cool. That stuck out to me.
Yeah, the cinematography is so good in those movies. Well,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
because one thing I heard of that whole part that's in black and white is also a flashback that takes place on a different planet, which is like the Harkonnens' homeworld.
Yes.
And they have a monochromatic sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
yeah.
it's even
That's
built
the like
into the
reasoning
lore.
for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So like
that's
it literally
cool.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That's like, you guys played No Man's Sky?
I'm not.
I'm familiar enough with it. I haven't ever played it.
Okay.
That
So
apparently just keeps getting
you
better
can,
too.
It does. You can go to planets where they have like monochromatic like sun, like you were saying.
Wow.
Like
Just
you
one
go to
color,
a planet
yeah.
and it's just white and gray.
Hmm.
And you're like, is my game broken? Like, my screen?
No,
like,
that's cool as shit.
And you like tap
Wow.
the screen and you're like, what's going on? And there's some planets that are like, everything's kind of like prismatic. Like they're all like hexagonal. Like the whole world is like hexagonal and like has like a, you know, when you see like light through like a mist and it's kind of like rainbowy.
Yeah.
And, like little like reflections like that.
Yeah.
Like little glimpses of color.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's reminded me of No Man's Sky.
Yeah,
That's
no,
cool.
yeah, and I love that that game has gotten better. That they explore with really cool ideas like that. You know,
They just keep adding stuff.
It's been like
it's
8
ins-
years
they
since
have
that came
so
out.
many like
and they're still
updates.
updating it.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I've-
That's really cool.
I played I played like 20 hours on one file and then started over and put like 100 hours into that file.
dang.
And I have like a B class like mothership, so like I can park my other like 6 spaceships that I have, like personal spaceships, on my mothership.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Okay.
then I can use my mothership to like jump further than my normal spaceships can go, like
Yeah.
warp. And then I can take, you know, so I leave the bridge and I can send out like my fleet to like go do missions and stuff, and then I can run down, hop in my little personal ship, and then fly down to the planet and like
That's awesome.
excavate or like build.
And you can like build structures and stuff on
Yeah,
planets.
I have
now.
a whole like
Yeah.
farming like setup to. It's very like there's like 2 or 3 plants that I grow, but I grow so many of them because you take like all these like basic resources from plants,
Yeah.
and craft all the way down.
You have a whole planet
Yeah.
And then
to waste. Yeah.
my whole thing is like I craft like the end goal is it's called like living glass, and it's like AI like glass, or it's like somewhat like aware of itself, like glass, and you can sell that for like
Like
what is it?
millions.
Yeah, you can sell it for like $1 million, like a pop. So like I harvest all my plants and I can craft like 17 of them. But
So they've just turned it into Minecraft, which is good.
yeah.
That's only
Yeah.
a net positive if a game can do that right. You know.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier because Carson mentioned he just started playing Factorio.
Oh,
And so I brought up that I really love modded Minecraft. And specifically, I love the tech-focused mod packs.
Yeah.
Where they have-
those look crazy.
Yeah,
You
there,
can
there is.
rotate shit and stuff, and or is that the same ones that have like they introduce gears and stuff and
Yeah, that's a newer mod called Create, where they add rotational energy into Minecraft
Yeah.
and let you manipulate it with different gears and ratios and speeds and all of that stuff.
that one frustrated me to like no end.
Yeah, that one's cool. But I particularly love the mod Greg Tech and some of the mods or mod packs that are like focused around it. Because Greg Tech is like a very transformational mod where it's almost a mod pack in and of itself. Mm-hmm. It adds a progression system based around these tiers of developing circuitry. And so you go from everything from like, you know, very basic like steam engines and then the first primitive circuits all the way down to micro circuits, nano circuits, and even developing like wetware or quote unquote biological hardware. With the end goal in some of the most hardcore mod packs of developing the Stargate, So
Oh, so it is RimWorld Factorio. Yeah.
yeah, and
the
so
mod.
and even like at that point in the game, I'm assuming you have access to other forms of teleportation, but it's just a milestone in and of itself because it's like the end
Yeah.
goal entirely. Um, and there are some in particular, or there's one in particular, one mod pack called Greg Tech New Horizons, which is very focused around that, and it's on version like 1.7 of Minecraft, which is very old.
Yes.
But it is still being consistently updated to this day. It has hundreds of like forks of mods that have been developed, and they have been redeveloped specifically for this mod pack to better integrate with it and better support the performance limitations that come with getting to the late stages of it.
Yeah.
Because this mod pack will take you thousands of hours to complete if you're playing it solo.
No, I love that dedication of the Minecraft modding community. But
It is
something like
so
that too,
crazy.
if you're actually making circuits, I feel, and I mean, just from me listening to you, maybe I'm wrong, but because I feel like a big problem with Minecraft is that a lot of it, or at least the thing that separates a game like Factorio from Minecraft, would be that Factorio, it all is like laid out to you what is needed. Even though it gets very complicated, but it tells you what you need to do, and then you can get a idea of like what the progression needs to be to make a certain item or whatever, or accomplish a certain automation. Minecraft, you can automate a lot of things, if not everything, but it's all based more on like exploitation of the game's mechanics, and it's these very, very complicated ways of doing that and like making it into this consistent machine based thing.
Yeah.
Like everything has to be a farm.
Yeah, and then you also are
Yeah.
just like anything that's a circuit, it's just you are literally laying out every piece of wire of any circuit that you can come up with, and then it takes tons of space for that compared to just being able to condense something down like, oh, now you have a circuit that's an item that's like a block size. you know,
and
that does this.
to add on to that is what Greg Tech in particular does. It adds these circuit items that are not like literally, you put redstone in a certain template and it combines it, but it's more along Christian's thing that he was mentioning with No Man's Sky, where you take these aggregate resources and combine them together through different steps of crafting
Yeah,
to
exactly.
form a singular item that is more valuable than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, which that sounds Factorio like too, where
Yeah.
you're taking things from the base level of the base resources, and then eventually it gets funneled into much more complicated resources that you need to craft stuff.
Yeah.
Still,
That's like what's the game we played that's basically like setting up like factories and on like
Satisfactory?
Satisfactory.
Yeah,
And
the
we
3D. That one is really cool too.
Ooh.
I've been
If
meaning
you
to
like
look that
that's
one up.
Factorio,
My
you
friend
should
told me
check
about
it
Satisfactory
out.
is so good.
yeah.
They
That sounds harder, maybe, but
We played
Maybe?
like 3 different. I think we started over like 2 or 3 different times.
we did. Yeah.
or just it,
And
it
by
adds
the-
a whole other level of complication. I guess.
Yeah,
you
by
know?
the like 3rd time you start, because you play a little bit and you're like, everything's kind of a mess for like what I need to get to, and then you start over, and then you get to that point in like half the time, and you're like, well, now everything's a mess again.
Yeah,
And you
I
start
still
over,
hate this.
You
Yeah,
and
like
then-
better plan it out. In
And
your
you
second
plan it out even
playthrough.
better.
You know-
And
you
then
know what
you're
you're
like,
working
wow.
towards.
Yeah, we built a huge. It was like 2 factories that came together to like create like one thing.
Yeah.
And each factory was crafting like, this goes to this, this goes to this, do,
Yeah.
and like tons of
And
conveyor belts.
I
and-
loved with Satisfactory how it had the built-in metrics that showed you the efficiency per machine.
Yes.
So that when you were like laying out the different item distributions for all your crafting steps, you could see like the total efficiency of your factory itself and also the individual ones. So you could be like, oh, my factory is only producing the item it's supposed to like 50% of the time, and the other 50% it's just stalled and not doing anything. Why is that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's because, I'm lacking in this distribution network here where maybe I'm producing enough items or not enough items and I need to scale it up. But the way my belts are set up, it's just not getting distributed effectively. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
Satisfactory was so cool.
and continuing a bit with that, they the developers of Satisfactory Coffee Stain Studios, I think it is. They have a YouTube channel where their social media guy will give an overview of like their kind of roadmap and what they're working towards. And they're finally working towards the official 1.0 release of the game that will take them out of early access. So they've spent a lot of like development time working to update the game for Unreal Engine. I think is it 5 now is like the most modern one, where they add in like the lumen lighting system and better just like nanite for like rendering things. And so the game will look much better than it already does, which it already looks great. And it'll just be a whole lot more complete, I think. So I think when that rolls around, it might be fun to try another playthrough with everyone again and see what we can accomplish.
Yeah. That game was really fun.
It's a great game.
Like once you get like scaling up to where like you need like multiple factories to produce one thing.
Yeah.
Like you really have to like think about like each step of the process. And you're like, okay, like I need to make sure this section is running at 100% efficiency.
Yeah.
So I can funnel it to the next section.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if I get to the end and just do it all in one go, I'm never going to find what the problem is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Satisfactory in particular would be a good one for like the friend group we have that plays the games together.
Well, Factorio also has 500 player capable,
which is so
multiplayer.
crazy.
Yeah.
Is that are you referencing like the Spiffing Brit video about that?
He must have mentioned it, yeah. But like, just that is mind blowing. And like, I've been playing some Factorio with my friend. Like, we have a world that we share, and that's a lot of fun, But yeah, Satisfactory, I'm not exactly sure how it looks, and that might be even more fun. Or if it's more,
it's like
Minecraft
a realistic
level.
3D
kind
of game. You have like actual terrain and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not block linear like Minecraft is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It is a real world, but there's only as far as I understand it, there's only one map for Satisfactory.
There's 3.
Oh no! You're right. Yeah, the maps are like planned out. They have a little variety in them and stuff.
It's like
they're all
easy,
different,
medium, and hard. And I think it's based on like amount of resources and like how far apart they are.
Yeah,
and
but it's not like
terrain.
Randomly generated stuff like Minecraft is.
Still
or
pretty
Factorio.
limited. Yeah. Well, have you guys played RimWorld?
I have not. No.
Because that's not quite the same thing, but it's got so many similarities. Because that was the game, like the same friend that I'm playing Factorio with, he was the one who introduced me to RimWorld, where it's the same kind of idea. You're crash landed. It's a top-down game. You're crash landed on an alien planet. The goal is to escape, to build a rocket and escape. But you're controlling, in most scenarios, you get like 3 colonists kind of thing that you assign tasks to like gather materials, go and do this like particular task, craft this thing, like they all have their individual skills and everything, but you have to do the same thing, build your base, kind of set things up to be automated. You have to schedule people to do things because not everybody has they can't all do the same things, and people come and raid you. Other people, like other like human-looking characters, come and try and attack you and kill you, and you have to fight them off and stuff. But you should check it out. I don't want to. I feel like we're talking a lot about these games. I don't need to just bog it all down. But very cool game too. Very interesting take on this kind of like gameplay style, but not quite as focused on. I mean, there's no like automation focus or anything like that. It's really just a tree of crafting things, but trying to manage like a group of people, because you can like, you'll find other people. Maybe you knock out one of your attackers, and then you can drag them into a designated prison space, and then you have a designated prison warden who goes and tries to convince them to not be an asshole, and then eventually you can have them join your colony with you, and they're one of your workers now or something.
That's cool.
Yeah, very cool game, but too much time to sink into these games. I don't have time for just one of them,
Yeah.
Well, not to cut things short here, but
Yeah, we have
are
been going.
right almost at 90 minutes.
Okay.
So I'm going to vote that we do our review and wrap it up.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
And
we're doing a
then-
beer podcast now.
And then we can
Podcast.
continue, maybe do an after hours and try that pineapple one you brought, Christian.
I'd try it.
I could stay for another. What time is it? It's 9:45.
Another like
I
hour away.
I could probably do like 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
We could split
Okay.
a beer. We could all like split another beer, so
Sure.
we're not all drinking another full beer kind of thing.
That's fine. We'll figure it out. Let's
Yeah,
do our
yeah.
reviews quick,
Yeah.
and then let's see. Well, Mr. Guest Carson, would you like to start off with your review?
Sure. So let me remind myself of the criteria. So we've got ourselves a German-style Pilsner with a lightly sweet malt character, lightly sweet malt character, subtle floral hop aroma, and crisp, clean finish.
How does that sum it up?
I'd say it's a pretty accurate summary. I don't find anything disagreeable about this beer. I think we mentioned right at the beginning, it's not what I was expecting it to be. A lot of other Pilsners, I guess, are not quite this interesting, where they're just I've always kind of equated Pilsner, it's like, oh, that's what they call Miller High Life, is a Pilsner. And like that's kind of always been the idea, is like, oh, this is your light beerman's beer. But this is not that. This has some edge to it, definitely. Like the floral and the malty part kind of like swirl together, and they kind of give you this upfront like, oh, this has some alcohol in it, kind of thing. Even though it's not, it's 5.5%, it's not crazy, but like, oh, it tastes like a beer. It doesn't taste like cheap beer.
Yeah.
And just interesting flavors. I really like the kind of the floral part, is interesting, where it kind of tastes a little bitter to me, but in a good way, like right on, like up front. But yeah, overall, what's the rating scale out of 10?
Tier list system, so
Tier list system.
C, B, A, S.
Okay.
Lowest to highest.
I'd give this one an A, honestly. I'd say this is a really solid and very drinkable beer.
Very nice. I can go ahead and do mine next here. I like the very subtle floralness. I like that it's not very hoppy. The alcohol percentage is good enough, 5.5%, and it comes in the 16 ounces. So you get an extra quarter of a standard drink there. Overall, I thought the flavor was pretty decent. I can't help but compare it to the Citra wheat that we tried from our last session of the beer podcast, seeing as it's made by the same company and it's, very similar in its composition, less citrusy, but also less hoppy. And I agree that it's a very decent beer that I would love to drink more of, and I'm going to also give this an A.
Sweet. I think I agree with just about everything you guys have said so far. I think immediately, first impressions when we first cracked it open, I think I mistook the floralness of it as more citrusy, because that was my immediate thought, was like as soon as it hits your tongue, I was like, oh, kind of like citrus. And you let it sit and take a few more sips,
And you're like, oh.
and you're like, okay,
Yeah. A little more to it.
Yeah, not citrus. This is more like you think about it a little bit more. But it's definitely nothing about it is too overpowering or off-putting. It's a good balance of all the flavors they've got there. And yeah, it was very tasty. I think you said Miller High Life kind of reference, and I can get a little bit of that from
Miller
this.
Light, I
or
guess.
Miller Light.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, maybe I did say Miller High Life, but it's Miller Light that they advertise as the Pilsner.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is not as good as Miller High Life.
Yeah. But I could definitely see how this could be compared to a Miller, but a step up. It's not just a cheap beer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. Drank two. Oh, hold on.
Finish it off real quick. There we
Drank
go.
2 of them. I'm also going to give it an A. A's all around.
And we'll give it we got to remind it, it's a local special.
It
Code
is.
Brewery over on South Antelope Valley in N Street, right?
Oh, yeah. Antelope Valley Parkway.
There we go.
Shout out to Code Beer. Shout out to Paul for sponsoring this episode.
Yes, thank you.
I've always had good beers from them. The few I've tried have all been good.
Yeah, from Code, not from Paul specifically.
Right, yeah. Well, I don't know. He might be, the Shadow Master.
Oh.
I can't confirm nor deny.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. We're going to transition here to a brief after hours, I think. But yeah, you know what to do. Like, bell, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Check us out on
Share.
Patreon. And I think we're going to wrap it up there. Have a good rest of your evening. Oh, yeah. Clink
Can't
the
forget to
glasses.
clink. And that's the sound of an empty beer.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Have a good night.